I see the need.
Repugnant in a free and open society.
Hundreds of abusive clergy.
It was unidentified, and that's why it was so unsettling.
You deserve the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are watching Dauntless Live.
What is up, everybody? Hopefully my microphone is working. I'm not sure why the audio on the countdown was glitching out. Today is May 18th, 2026. I'm stoked that you're here with me. I've got a brand new light here, and I think it makes me look even healthier. Our old streams, I was definitely kind of broadcasting from the shadows, which I guess is metaphorical in a way, but we're doing it live, and hopefully there's no more audio glitches or any other kind of glitches moving forward. We have an awesome show in store for you tonight. We're going to be interviewing Adrian from Rise Attire. He is, of course, the director, editor, and audio designer behind Vibes 02 Full Spectrum Resonance, our latest film drop at Dauntless. And if you're wondering what Dauntless is, I'm here to explain it. Head to dauntlessdialogue.com where you'll find our brand new streaming platform. We have so much goodness here for you to sink your teeth into, for you to sink your eyeballs and ears into. That's a weird way of describing it, but we have docuseries, we have documentaries, animated series. We do short form and long form content. Everything is premium quality. And you'll come to find that we explore a variety of rabbit holes. So many different topics, all under one umbrella. The Dauntless ecosystem is chock full of amazing content. Now, if you want to support us, that would be amazing, and I would be eternally grateful. We recently had to delete some of our subscription plans because there's some issues going on with the new website and the way that it authenticates users, and so for the time being, we've eliminated our gift options. If you're wondering, and if you're new here, you're like, it doesn't matter because I didn't even know you had gift options. But at least for now, we have a basic plan, a value plan, which signs up for a year. And my personal favorite is the Gold Pass. This is a lifetime membership, and it's a one-time purchase. You will get locked in for eternity. That's right. Regardless of what happens on planet Earth, regardless of where we head as a company, if we turn into $1 trillion company, you're still going to have access. So I think it's an awesome deal, and we thank everyone who is, of course, already a gold member. You guys are legends. Check out this awesome catalog, guys. And this is going to be the subject matter for today. Vibes is an awesome series that I think counterbalances some of our darker content. And if you've been around, Dauntless long enough, you know that we have a penchant for exposing evil. we also like to shine a light on goodness, solutions, uplifting and inspiring stuff. And that's what you're going to find when you sink your teeth into the Vibes series. And the first episode is free right now. You can watch it here on this platform or on our Rumble channel. And that's a solid foundation for episode 2, which pulls you even deeper down the rabbit hole and I think explains much more of the vibrational nature of our reality. I should mention, by the way, before I forget, see, I already forgot, but I remembered. This is our first time streaming on our brand new YouTube channel. This is either like our 3rd or 4th YouTube channel because the powers that be don't like us very much. And so we're giving it a try. Right now, we're just sticking to live streams there. I will probably also put the trailers up on there. But it seems that anytime I publish our full-length films, it's like within a couple weeks, we're off. We're scrubbed from YouTube existence. And so we're just trying to make it easy for you and convenient for you to reach you where you are. We are also going to premiere the teaser trailer for an upcoming series, and we're going to save that for the end of the show. After our conversation, that'll be a fun little, a nugget that we save for the end to keep your attention, to keep you hooked so that you don't click away. I know you won't. But for now, I'm very excited to introduce to the stage my
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Adam. So great to be here with you. Always a pleasure. Yeah, well, it's definitely something that we set out to do after episode 1. We're like, you know what? We just need to make new additions to this signature series line every time we put out a new episode. And this series just lends itself perfectly to apparel because it's some of our favorite like subject matter visually to play with. And it's like, teases this style that is very aesthetic and drippy, as the kids say, and it's something that both Christina and I have a love for, and it just made perfect sense. So with this latest episode, we got to like turn all the symbols that I created for the episode, instead of chapters, they're marked by symbols. So each segment of the film has its own respective symbol that we I just saw my key drop out. Okay. No worries. So yeah, I designed, and that's sort of what started off the inspiration for the film. Is I sat down and I created a series of symbols for each topic I wanted to dive into, and then mapping that out really helped me put it into perspective exactly what it was that I was trying to say. So it's also perfect for merch. So we laid them out like vertically along the whole spine. That's one of the design series. There's 3 of them in this new batch, and 2 of them were designed by Christina, and she crushed it.
website. This is the Dauntless collection, but if you want to find your way over to the signature series, you just hover over signature series, click on vibes. You should explore the whole website if you've never actually been to Adrian's amazing clothing line, clothing company. But there's so much to offer, and many of the viewers probably have seen you, bumped into you at Gart's, where you've got your entire, like, you just haul out thousands of shirts and hang them up. But this is premium, made in America, evil free, high quality, soft fiber merch that, as you said, drips. So I just want to show everybody where they can find it, and you're back.
Okay, so with episode 1, I really wanted to sort of lay the foundation for this picture that we were going to be painting, and lay down some things that we're going to establish that we understand as we move forward. And one of those things to me was the sort of the squashing of the I guess it's become a controversy a little bit, especially with, like, modern science, contemporary kind of like medicine considers the idea of the human aura to be somewhat of a pseudoscience. And to me, it's just absurd. It's as absurd, if not more so, than denying the existence of a soul, which, of course, these, scientism types might be the first to spout, but the last to actually admit that they themselves do not have a soul, because it's much easier to talk about than to take accountability for. But the idea of a human energy field has been long established part of reality, for thousands of years, going back, crossing boundaries of civilizations throughout history, and different spiritual practices and religions, and even like Native Americans, and going back to like ancient China, all talked about the aura in different ways, the vital energy. And the episode was called Energy is Everything, which is a reference to one of the lines in the film that actually says that interchangeably, where everything is energy and energy is everything. Because if energy is, or if everything is energy, then that means energy itself is like the most important concept to understand and to apply when you're thinking about how the universe works and where your place in the universe is, and understanding our relationship with our creator, which has become a topic that's more and more important to me as I get older and I come to understand in different ways. And my understanding has evolved. And to me, the kind of scientific topics that we dive into are no different than the more spiritual, borderlining on religious topics that we addressed. Because to me, I've never seen them as mutually exclusive. At least when it comes to like fundamental science, the kind of science that like tries to understand how the universe works and that sort of thing, and the mysteries of the universe. I see those fields of study as inextricably linked with the idea of God and all the mystery involved with that, and wonder and awe. So with Vibes 1, we sort of laid out a thorough case for why there most certainly is a human energy field that we are all enveloped in. And my theory that I laid out in Vibes 1 is that two different auras, two different fundamental frequencies of individuals interact together in the same kinds of ways that two sounds on a piano, two notes on a piano, interact with one another in either harmony or dissonance. And when you think about the human experience through that lens, it actually makes a lot of sense. This sort of phenomenon where it's like you meet someone and it's like you've known them all your life. You have this like instant synergy, and it's like we're on the same wavelength, but in actuality, I think you're on two different wavelengths that are harmonizing in the same way that two different sounds can harmonize if they're related to one another mathematically in terms of like the speed at which they're vibrating. There's a science to that as well. So we go into the idea of what is wave mechanics, how do waves work, and transpose that into a number of different areas of the human experience and the cosmos and the universe in general. So episode 1 was sort of like a vibes 101, and vibes 2, the goal with that was to sort of just keep it going and take it to the next level and expand on that. And I didn't quite know where I was going to go with it when I first began the process of putting pen to paper and just creating footage and playing with sounds and music. And before I knew it, it just began to come into focus. And to me, Vibes 2 is basically where we left off, talking about energy and primarily focusing on sound. That was sort of the other main focus of episode 1, is the nature of sound and music and how the two are related in terms of like how our own energy field can be affected by music and be affected by the things that we're experiencing orally, as they say. And from there, the logical progression to me was to go into the sort of physics of sound. In episode 2, we started to talk about the sort of pioneering field of study called cymatics, which has to do with how sound looks as it moves through the world. Either how it moves the air around it, if you could see the kind of ways that the air was being affected by the sound that was traveling through it. Of course, we can't. So the next closest way that they found to visualize that is through a thin layer of water that's in a cuvette that's called a cymoscope. It's an invention that was pioneered by a man named John Stuart Reed, who was a protege of Dr. Jenner. Is it Jenner? Jennings. Hans Jennings, who was a scientist, physicist, and who sort of pioneered the study of cymatics. And he was working a lot with like different kinds of like, first it started with sand. That was actually the original kind of cymatics, where back in the day, it was almost like, something that they would do, like a parlor trick almost, where a guy named Chladni would strike a violin bow across a metal plate, and the sand that was on the metal plate would form like really intricate geometrical patterns. And through studying that and how the different kinds of pitches that were created through the different size plates, through the different, kinds of ways that you could pull the bow across the plate would affect how the sand would organize. But it was always geometric, and it was always organizing itself perfectly into these little nodes. And through that, you get an idea for how the compression and rarefaction process works in physics with waves, which is, every action has an equal and opposite reaction with this sort of physics, and air moves to and fro in an equal kind of way, in the positive or in the negative of the 0 point line, and that is where you get these beautiful ornate shapes from, is the different frequencies at which the air or the water the material. Sometimes he was Jenny was doing these experiments with like I forget the name of the material, but it's sort of like the ferrofluid type stuff, that's like with sound, it like comes alive. Like it almost looks like it's come to life, and he pioneered the field of study. So he was he passed all his knowledge on to John Stewart Reed, who actually he developed the cymoscope, which gives us probably the most accurate depiction of how sound looks. And he found that water is the best kind of medium for channeling that. And when you have a ring light above it, and the speaker body and everything is tuned so that none of the resonant frequencies of the speaker itself or the cuvette that the water is in or anything it's all like sort of filtered out and tuned perfectly so that you're only getting what's left, which is the sound itself. And through studying that, it's just told us so much about the nature of our reality in the most unexpected ways. And actually, what I found is that it actually blurs the lines between sight and sound, and to the point where the two start to become kind of one and the same. And whoops, sorry about that. How we doing? All right. Oh, thanks, buddy. Yeah, that's my buddy. It's my homie. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, where were we? Long about this stuff, so keep me focused. Sure. Oh, Adam, you're muted. I think we're good now. Is it good now, babe? No, it's still not good.
How about now? Am I at least getting audio when I go solo? This is we're dealing with all new plugins today, guys.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm good here. Okay.
I can hear you. Okay, so when it's both of us on the screen, you're muted. So should I?
Okay, how about now? I added a new microphone. I plugged it into the Yeti. If this doesn't work, then I don't know. As soon as we get a thumbs up.
Yeah, that fixed it.
Awesome. Okay. Then I hope there weren't earlier segments where I was muted.
Well, I think I was rambling for most of the time, so
Yeah, no, it's all good. I just want to apologize to everybody because this is literally my first time having a guest while broadcasting in OBS. That's why I'm so shambolic today. I've got all these new plugins and I'm using Google Meet for the first time, so something was bound to go wrong.
hey, that wasn't as bad as it could have been, man.
Yeah, I feel like I hope
Sometimes you
I
gotta learn the
didn't.
hard way, you know?
Yeah, I just hope that I didn't have huge segments where I was silent. But nonetheless, we're gonna persevere. And if the first part of this sucked, then the first part of this sucked. But you were good, so that's
I
what
think Christina
counts.
would have let us know. I think we're good. Once you brought me on, I pretty much started talking. I mean, you asked basically to talk about Vibes One, and that's how it started.
Right. Okay. All right. So I have questions for you, but I think first what I'd like to do is show an excerpt from the film. This is going to touch on the nature of what is invisible to us. It's touching on the visible light spectrum, and I think it illustrates it very well. So we will see you guys on the other side. Sit tight.
We tend to imagine color as if it were a fixed property, as though objects come pre-furnished with it in the same way they do shape or weight. A stop sign is red, a leaf is green. Feels simple enough. But in truth, this is not accurate. Color is not absolute. It is the result of a relationship between bands of light, a surface, and the eye that perceives it. What we call color in the natural world is essentially the frequency band of the visible spectrum that an object reflects, rather than absorbs, based on a number of factors, which must then be translated by the brain before it's experienced. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Each of these spectral colors represents a different band of frequency on the electromagnetic spectrum. When we change the light, the color changes with it. Not superficially, but in truth. The bright red stop sign we see at noon is no longer bright red at midnight. It's easy to believe that somehow the bright red is still there, hiding underneath the shadow, unable to be seen. But in truth, we're being presented with different visible realities under different conditions of light. The color you see at midnight is its new color, muted and dark as it may be. The world is not pre-painted. It is being rendered live through frequency and perception. The same is true under black light. Those strange fluorescent neon glows are not the byproduct of some kind of bioluminescent reaction. They are another expression of how that material responds to a different part of the spectrum. A different conversation between light and matter gives rise to a different visible world entirely. And already, that should tell us something important, that what we see is relative. Most human beings see color through 3 types of cone cells in the eye, 3 channels, from which the brain constructs the full visible palette of about 1 million different shades of color that most of us take for granted. But it is not the only way a visual world can be assembled. Those with color blindness have only 2 functioning cones. They are living in a differently organized visual world. Certain contrasts disappear. Certain colors collapse into one another. The world itself has not changed, of course, only their access to it. Yet that difference in access is enough to shift their experience in a profound way.
Awesome, dude. Pretty mind-blowing stuff. And it invokes a lot of concepts for me when I watch that. Like, one of the first things that comes to mind, obviously, is all of this invisible electromagnetic radiation that we're swimming in, from cell phone towers to 5G networks, GPS devices, home-based Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Like, there's hundreds of examples. When I was working at this one health food store, we had a brand new Wi-Fi router installed. It was a very powerful one, and we then had to sync it up. And what we found is that there were 124 different Wi-Fi networks that we were picking up in that location, because we were adjacent to an apartment building and a bar. And so we had no idea that we were at the intersection of 124 different Wi-Fi networks. Right. It is insane. And I imagine that it's probably not even that exceptional. I imagine that everywhere you go in a city, you're probably being bombarded by dozens or hundreds of different signals. And those are just the Wi-Fi signals. Who knows what else is out there?
And some of those Wi-Fi signals are streaming 4K films. You know what I mean? That's the kind of stuff I almost I don't even want to think about.
Yeah, dude. And we are aware of the adverse health risks of EMR, but we're just scratching the surface when it comes to all the totality of them combined and how high above natural baselines it is. So in that clip, you're talking about these tetrachromats who can perceive 100 million different types of colors, way beyond what the normal human eye can perceive, and they're capable of picking up on the ultraviolet or something.
Not quite. Not even tetrachromats can see ultraviolet. So being able to see ultraviolet requires just a whole different kind of cone structure, maybe even a fifth cone or something, but it's outside of the range of human sight. And it generates a color that we've never seen before and we can't imagine, because by definition it's unimaginable.
Right. Yeah, we don't have the equipment, we don't have the hardware to imagine.
It's fun to try, though.
Those paintings are so cool that you show in the film.
Yeah.
And
so even that, even within the spectral range, there's colors that exist that we haven't seen before, in particular on things that are all around us, that if we had that fourth cone, we could see, additional shades and just gradations that are there but completely escape us, which brings in the idea of what is color, what does it mean to see, is that something that is just always there, or is it something that is only there based on whoever's perceiving it, and it just raised all kinds of really interesting, profound questions. One of them was, it's almost like the equivalent of the kind of Zen saying about, if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one around to hear it, did it ever make a sound? Which is actually something that I addressed in episode 1, Vibes 1. And the answer to that is no, it doesn't make a sound, because a sound requires an ear to hear it and process it. That's what makes a sound. That's the other side of the equation, aside from the source of the sound. The second part is the reception of it, the interpretation of it. And without that, it's just the air moving, and even if it's an animal hearing it, it's still a sound, but if there's no one around, no animals, no life around to hear it, then it didn't. And in the same way, if a leaf falls in the woods and there's no one there to see it as green, was it ever green? And I think the answer is probably no. The green exists because there's the light source, which in itself can change, but there's also the other part of the equation, which is the human eye receiving that information that we interpret as green, which if you were a tetrachromat, you might interpret it differently. If you were colorblind, you might interpret it differently. So it's relative. So it gets you thinking about what is the world like outside of our ability to perceive it? It's everything everywhere all at once kind of thing, you know, like it makes me think about the kind of quantum mechanics where like waves don't snap into focus until they're perceived, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it also sort of invokes this idea of when people take mind altering substances, they're opening up their aperture to see and perceive those realities, let's say, that are already there, that are distinct but interwoven with our own, that we have this low resolution perception of. You know, our eyeballs, our ears, the senses of our body are very limited and constrained in what they're able to pick up and tune into. And so when somebody's on DMT, for instance, or ayahuasca or psilocybin, or go down the list, LSD, it's like there's always been this debate about, is that an internal process or are you opening up your aperture? And I don't know if you have, you know, an opinion on that.
Well, I've experimented with my share of hallucinogens and psychotropic substances, and I will say that it depends on the substance. But I think something like DMT, which I've done, you know, I haven't done it many times, but I actually, before I did it, I was fascinated by it, and I was reading the laboratory studies that were done on it by like Timothy Leary and Terrence McKenna, and all the stuff about the clockwork elves and the different kinds of experiences that they were having. You know, you know, if it's an eye-open kind of experience, eyes open, I think, yeah, it's basically just opening up the filters that are in your brain that are there to keep you sane. You know what I mean? Like, where if they weren't there, we would be taking too much in. We would sort of lose our mind and lose touch with reality, because we still need those filters and those boundaries to function, right? But if you're in a place where you're ready to go beyond that and sort of see beyond that, and you're in the right state of mind and right kind of place in your life, you know, I think it's a chemical that exists naturally in the brain, you know, and it's basically just like a concentrated dose of it. And they say that it's in not just the human brain, but it's in plants, it's in all kinds of things that are organic. So I think, to me, the answer to that is, yeah, it's not so much and just a relative kind of chemically induced experience. I think it's something much bigger than that basically just shows you what's beyond the veil, you know. I've heard some crazy stories though about closed eye experiences, people like traveling to the other side of the galaxy and living as like a king for 1,000 years, and then like coming back into their body out of nowhere, and it's 5 minutes later, like some line.
Yeah, that's a whole other angle to it, right? We've mostly been talking about the things that we already know are a bit subjective, like color and sound and light, but you're talking about like temporal dilations and how we perceive time. That's like a whole other aspect of this.
Yeah.
I love it. Before we keep going, let's show another excerpt. And this one is called Windows of Perception. And then we'll chat about it.
Perhaps the word is not about the primordial creative force of sound alone, but the ordering of law, once spoken into being in God's native tongue. These principles, much like music, cast themselves outward across the spectrum, becoming sound here, becoming light there, becoming the architecture of worlds, and, most mysteriously, becoming the conscious perspective through which we're able to observe it at all. Our perspectives come through relatively narrow windows of perception, bands of vibration the body can register and the brain can render into experience. We hear within a certain range. We see within a certain range. We feel through instruments of flesh and nerve that convert pressure into sensation and electrical change into relative meaning. Color itself is not a paint on the world so much as an interpretation of frequency. Sound is not a thing in the air so much as a movement that the body makes intelligible. Even emotion, often treated as something private and abstract, has a physiology, a rhythm, a signature in the body that can be calmed, sharpened, stirred, or depleted. Outside those windows is an ocean. Waves we do not hear, light we do not see, fields we sense only indirectly, if at all. Yet they pass through us, around us, and in some cases into us, shaping the conditions under which life unfolds. Much of it is benign, the ordinary background of a planet, the quiet influence of sunlight, the simple fact that we are immersed in weather we cannot name. Some of it is even beneficial, but it would be naive to imagine that every wave we swim in is neutral, or that every use of frequency is innocent. Because the moment you understand that a living system can be nudged by rhythm, that attention can be guided by repetition, that mood can be shifted by tone, you begin to recognize the deeper implication. The environment is not just scenery, it is an active participant. How the same principles that organize and harmonize can also be inverted, distorted, and used to confuse, to drain, to intoxicate the mind. So the invitation here is not to fear, nor to worship the invisible. It is simply to look with fresh eyes at what has always been present. That everything moves, everything repeats, everything resonates for a reason. And consider how human beings, whether we know it or not, are exquisitely responsive instruments inside a universe that is never truly silent.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm reminded, I just want to go on a quick riff. Again, thinking about all of the intersecting EMFs that are passing directly through our bodies, all from the moment we were born till the moment we die at this stage. Maybe our ancient ancestors had a much lower body burden, but now with the technological world of modernity, it's like we're just constantly bombarded, and most people only think of themselves as like receivers of that. And a lot of people don't even think of themselves as receivers. They're ignorant of this. But at least the health conscious people are understanding that our body receives these signals. And then you can take it a step further and say, but we also transmit signals. And the brain is a two-way radio. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was a huge part of what I was trying to convey in Vibes 1 is, that we're antennas, and we live in an electric universe, that's constantly moving and constantly vibrating. And it's not just a matter of the literal kind of energy that we're putting out and swimming in, but it's also like a sea of cause and effect, where everything is connected to one degree or another through cause and effect. And one of the big parts of, yeah, I saw that. Is it still? Okay, I was told I'm getting an echo, causing an echo. Speaking of cause and effect,
Maybe let me turn off
my volume
Hang
is
on.
too loud.
It might be on my end. Maybe I've got two different audio inputs. Maybe I've got well, I don't know how to do that without shutting off my own microphone. I don't know. You sound fine on my end, but I don't know. Christina's the authority here.
It might be okay. It might be on your end then. So if you look in OBS, you see like the sound mixer.
I'll mute myself when you're talking. How's that sound?
Okay. So, the other thing to the work of St. Thomas Aquinas, and he was a 13th century friar from the Dominican Republic who became a saint, and he was a brilliant mind. He sort of paved the way for Western intellectualism and especially when it comes to the spirituality, he laid out a thorough case for the existence of God. And one of his proofs was this theory that everything is held up at all times by the first source, the first cause, which is the the first link in the chain of cause and effect that keeps everything afloat. It keeps everything powered because everything is relying on something else. Nothing is like self-contained in that kind of regard. Down to a cellular level, down to every element that you could think of that makes up the world that we live in, the reality that we know. And at every given moment, it can be traced back to its source, and that's God. And that is actually how a field works. When we look at ferrofluid moving because there's some kind of current or energy being pushed through it, and we see the spikes in the ferrofluid, we see the ripples in the cymatic, in the cymoscope. We're not looking, when we look at each one of those kind of ripples that's emerging, that itself is not the field. The field is what makes that stuff appear. It's what gives that stuff life. And it's to me, it's a direct correlation to the idea of St. Thomas Aquinas and the first cause.
All right. And is that ferrofluid in the Cymatics 101 clip?
So there's ferrofluid
probably, right?
In the Jenny's experiments, he's messing with that stuff. And there's some at the end of Vibes 2, in the final section, got a source. You see it. It's like ferrofluid almost looks magnetic. It's like black.
Yeah, but in the clips that you sent me, the excerpts, is that in the Cymatics 101?
Ferrofluid? I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Actually, maybe. Wow, you want to play that?
I want to play that one now.
All right.
Let's hit that clip. This will be actually we have two more after this. And then, but for now, we're going to play Cymatics 101, and we'll see you on the other side.
What emerges is not chaos, but order. Repeating geometries, radial symmetries, delicate mandalas, and living-looking forms that suggest that sound may not simply move through the world, but participates in shaping it. Long before the word cymatics was coined, Ernst Chladni was already making vibration visible in the late 18th century, drawing a violin bow across metal plates dusted with sand, and watching the grains organize themselves into intricate nodal figures. In the 19th century, Welsh singer Margaret Watts Hughes added something stranger still, the human voice. Through an instrument she called the idophone, she sang into a membrane and watched powders resolve into what she named voice figures, some geometric, some startlingly floral. Margaret spoke of her work as a revealing of another link in the great chain of the organized universe. But it was Dr. Hans Jenny in the 20th century who gathered these threads and gave the field its enduring name, cymatics. His work did not merely show that sound could move matter. It showed that different frequencies seemed to call forth different families of form, as though pattern itself were latent in it, waiting on the right vibrational key to reveal itself.
So I'm reminded of this film that we actually have on Dauntless. I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to watch it. It's called Cymatica.
Oh,
okay. But you can hear me, right?
Yeah. I thought you were going to talk about Thrive.
Thrive is awesome, and they go into like the toroidal energy fields.
Which I want to go into next for sure.
Dope. Awesome. Yeah, I think it was in Cymatica, if I'm remembering correctly. Some of these
You
ancient.
didn't mute yourself, right?
Correct.
Okay.
This is the most chaotic live stream I've done in a long time. This is like bringing me back to the early days where everything went wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we're already this far in at this point. Fuck it.
I feel like a noob when I've actually been doing this like a decently long time.
Yeah.
Okay. I think it was in Cymatica. There are these ancient root languages that, when chanted, can actually change the color of a candle flame. And some of these, ancient like Gregorian chants and stuff, they have measurable influences on like lowering heart rate and reducing blood pressure and a number of other like demonstrable physiological changes in the human body. And it, I don't know anything about this, if this is true or not, but I've certainly heard this, that English and some of the other more modern languages are so sort of muddied and distorted that when they're spoken, they actually have the opposite, an adverse effect on human physiology. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's partly true, and maybe the way certain people speak enhances that effect more than others. I think that we have some control over that, the way that we present ourselves and the way we speak with intent and emotion. But it makes you wonder, right? Like, we are sound making machines, and you don't have to play a musical instrument to participate in sound making. Everything you say and speak and even think internally is creating these vibrational frequencies.
Absolutely, man. And that's something I touched on in Vibes 1 a lot, is talking about the power of prayer, for one. I mean, I'm not so sure. I haven't heard that there's a theory that there's certain languages like English and or certain, modern languages that have a negative effect. It sounds like maybe, something that was sort of made up by people studying this stuff who, don't really know that much about it. But maybe. I have heard, though, that there are like certain, words like certain languages, going back to like Gregorian chants and stuff, that definitely have healing properties to them, or like extraordinary capabilities, But I think if something's going to have a negative effect on you, it's probably needs to have negative intention behind it. I think that plays into it a lot. I don't think a word can be inherently toxic, or a language could be inherently toxic unless it's like orcish or something, but like, going back to like intention, I think that prayer is cosmic, and it's very powerful. And, I think we've only just begun to understand how that actually works. And I think a lot of it has to do with intention and the fact that, I think I don't want to speak too much about this because I don't know too much about it. I plan on digging more into it, but I have been seeing some things and reading some things that like we actually can create photons, through sound. Like that, it's like if you were able to go onto a sort of micro level, that there's like photon energy coming from sound and particular the human voice. But it's quite an interesting idea. But the let me see, what was I thinking of when you said that? It's all about like what you're putting out energetically, in terms of like how you're feeling about yourself, how you're feeling about the things that you're saying, what your relationship is with the words, and that level of consciousness that you're living through, that is part of how you're handling yourself in the world, I think plays a big role in that. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with Vibes, is to get people more focused on these sorts of topics and thinking about it more, because the more you think about this sort of thing, I think the more conscious it makes you of how you're affecting the world and how you're, you know, what you're putting out there, because what you put out there directly affects what comes back to you in so many ways, you know, and it can either perpetuate itself in a positive way, or it can spiral downward, depending on how you're operating and what, what kind of, you know, vibrational level you're on, you know, down to your inner monologue, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I can comment on some of those things. With simple experiments that can be done at home, you can write love on the side of a jar, and you can actually stave off mold. And I know that sounds far-fetched. There's a channel that I love on YouTube called Truth Stream Media. I'm sure you're aware of them, Aaron and Melissa Dykes. And, you know, they wanted to test this. They're like, I've read it, I've seen it, and it just sounds far-fetched. And so they cooked rice, just basic white rice. They had 3 jars. They had a neutral control. And then on one of them, they wrote like all sorts of hateful messages. And then on the other one, they put all sorts of loving messages. And the hate one molded like very rapidly. The neutral one, as predicted, molded over time. And the love one just like stayed in this like stasis for like 3 or 4 months. No mold grew on it or anything. I would encourage you, if you doubt that, you can certainly try that at home. It's a very low barrier to entry. Anyone can do it. Regarding the photons, I remember reading in The Source Field Investigations by David Wilcock, RIP. He wrote about this experiment where I think it was some Chinese researchers who were studying remote viewing, and they tasked the remote viewers to try to move photons which are light particles, move the photons to one side of a vacuum sealed chamber with a camera from, you know, whatever it was, hundreds of miles away. And they actually were able to do that to such a statistically significant degree that like the majority of the photons moved to one side, when of course they should be evenly distributed. And so the film Vibes really invokes a lot of this psionic sort of the concepts behind psi, remote viewing, which is, you know, has been studied by the CIA. This has a long history in U.S. and Soviet warfare, but also, you know, telekinesis and telepathy and all manner of things. I think you even talk about someone staring at you, right?
Yeah, it was just the most basic kind of example I could think of a phenomenon that exists that we're not conscious of. And really what you're talking about is psychic phenomenon, because it's happened to everyone, I think. And that's the moment when you just sort of, if you're looking down and you just look up and look back and there's someone staring at you, and you look directly at them, and you just kind of knew that they were staring at you, and you had nothing visually, nothing sonically to indicate that that was happening, but it just instinctively, you look up and you look back directly at them. I've seen videos of people filming someone from a rooftop, and they'll just snap and look directly up at the camera. Like, you know, like just random authentic videos that weren't staged. Like, and it's fascinating. And whether or not we believe in psychic phenomenon holds no weight over whether or not that happens. You know, so it to me, it supports the idea that that, you know, just because we can't sense something doesn't, or just because something doesn't fit into the traditional box of perception, you know, like touch, smell, see, hear, that sort of thing, doesn't mean that it's not being sensed, you know. And think about what else we're sensing and picking up on that we don't that we don't know necessarily, that we don't understand through that box, but is still affecting us and still impacting us. And it's important because, those are vectors of attack as well. And, the powers that be, they're well aware of that stuff. So they often do all they can to prey on us in those ways that we can't necessarily be conscious of or be aware of. And we'll actively try to, suppress information that makes people more aware of that sort of thing. Because the more aware you are, the more you can protect yourself, and the less susceptible you are.
Yes, and you dive into the Rockefeller-funded shift from 432 to 440, and you talk about Horowitz's work, which I think is more on like crowd control and inducing hysteria and that sort of thing.
Horowitz was the guy who really he's a doctor. He's alive today, and he's made his rounds and wrote a few like dissertations on this research. But basically, he put together the most comprehensive case on his theory that the Rockefeller Foundation was behind the switch from the standardized tuning of 432 to 440. I mean, really, it wasn't standardized. So some countries and some disciplines would tune to 432. Some would tune to like 438. 444 is actually one of the better ones. But like, for those of you who aren't musicians, what that means is it's the frequency that your middle A is set to, which you then tune the rest of your instrument to. And then if you're playing in an orchestra or something, or in a band, whoever tunes first, if the rest of the, with an orchestra, usually it's the first violinist will come out and play the note, and then the whole orchestra will tune to that note at once, but that first note is set by like, a tuning fork usually, which is like designed to ring specifically at 440, but it's not the only way to tune an instrument. And in fact, through researching it, and learning more about 432, because there's a lot of like woo-woo stuff out there where people sort of talk about it, but they don't really know much about it. And they always throw up the same old meme that's been going around the internet that's like 432 versus 440, and it shows like two cymatic glyphs, and one of them looks beautiful and one of them looks like dog shit. And really, that's not real. Like, you can make any cymatic glyph look good or bad depending on, all kinds of factors, and there's nothing that those images were not able to be replicated. So I didn't want to use those as an example, but I ended up finding a much more definitive example of what the difference is between those two, and it actually has to do with toroidal physics. And the 432 frequency like snaps perfectly into this sort of cosmic harmonic series that all of geometry is tuned to, and it moves in a toroidal flow, which 440 does not. 440 is just stays. It's like planar, and you can imagine as energetic beings listening to music that's tuned to a toroidal flow that's like going in and out of itself perfectly in terms of how the energy is moving through the room and how it's affecting your energetic field, that would be much better for you than if it were not. And I think there's something very profound to that. And when you look at all of the steps that the Rockefeller Foundation went to try to push the standardization to 440, I mean, how much do you think the Rockefellers really care about music? You know, I don't think they're like huge music buffs that were like just determined to set a, you know, at the note that they think it should be at. Like, I don't think it works like that. And when you look at the fact that the Nazis were like there at this international conference that set the standard of A440, and they were one of the first ones to start broadcasting the 440 hertz tone every day on their radio stations, like on the eve of war as they were invading Poland. Like, makes you wonder. So I dug in deep to find a lot of things for that section, the weaponized frequencies, and found a bunch of stuff that you know, you can draw your own conclusions with. But you know, a lot of people will dismiss this stuff, but what I found is it's pretty conclusive. And what's fascinating is 432. You know, I plan on going maybe deeper into it in future episodes, but I tried to leave people with some things to check out, to dig into if they want to look into this stuff further. In particular, the YouTube video that I used for the toroidal cymatics, it's called. People should watch that video if they want to get the full picture on what I'm talking about with that. It's really cool, and it's a really well done video as well. I think it had less than 1,000 views on it. Grok recommended it to me, and I just like could not believe how random this video was that like no one has seen, and it's just was so well done, so cool. Guy built like a giant toroidal installation that he was passing the formulas through, that he was creating these like fields with, and using like LED, like an LED lattice that was wrapped around the torus shape, and he had it in his room at the end, and the just what he was able to create with that like the symmetry is just incredible. Really cool stuff.
Well, I learned a ton of stuff in that section in particular regarding the Nazis and their broadcasting of 440. Fascinating. And that's really a smaller section of the film where you talk about the weaponization of this knowledge and the frequencies that can have a dissonant effect. But the larger film, I think, is really uplifting because it does give you the science behind how this can empower civilization, how it can empower humanity. And if it's been hidden if it's been hidden from us for so long, then that means there's a good reason, and it's time that this knowledge comes forward. I think now is a good time to play our last clip here, and this one is called Ultraviolet. Let's rock.
Just above the visible spectrum, we find ultraviolet. Light that is real, present, even therapeutic, but in most cases, invisible to us. It is said to produce a color unlike anything we've ever seen. Bees can see in the ultraviolet. To them, many flowers do not look the way they look to us at all. Petals we perceive as simple or uniform may be marked with bold ultraviolet patterns. What would that be like? To see something truly outside our range, not just a stronger purple, not violet turned up to maximum, but something else entirely. Visual information we do not have the equipment to receive. A brand new color we cannot imagine, for the same reason we cannot imagine what it's like to see all sides of a ball at once. It's not merely difficult, it's impossible by definition. And that is where this gets interesting. Because once you realize that entire visual signals can be pouring through your world unnoticed, then antiquated assumptions break down even further. Assumptions that if we cannot perceive something, then surely it isn't real. But what if it's been real all along? Would you even know? And for that matter, what if in fact we had methods of perceiving some of this extrasensory information, but only understood passively, like through intuition, for example? The same logic that dispels flawed assumptions about what is and isn't real, based on whether or not we can perceive it, could then be applied to the nature of perception itself. Just because a sensation cannot be understood within the box of traditional perception doesn't mean it isn't sensed. For example, how many times have you suddenly looked up, turning your head around completely, only to immediately lock eyes with a stranger who's been looking at you silently from a distance that you would have never known was there by sound and sight alone? Whether or not you believe in psychic abilities holds no weight over whether or not you realize you're being watched when it happens. The truth is, there are far more forces at play in this world than we realize. But there are those who know it well, and they've used this knowledge to their advantage.
It's awesome, dude. This film is awesome. The B-roll is so unique, and I want to talk a little bit about the creation of it and how this is sort of a culmination for you as an artist, pulling together so many different things that you've created and repurposed from the past decade or longer. But I just want to opine on it, and from one filmmaker to another, I think your selection of B-roll and also the music, it's just, the rhythm is on point. It's really enjoyable start to finish. And as I said, I learned things when I was watching it, and I've been kind of studying this, not like it's my number one passion, but I've been into it for most of my life. And for me to stumble across some new wisdom in this one was very refreshing. But the attention to detail on all the little pieces, from the title cards to just like the way that you make certain decisions as an editor that I probably wouldn't make, or maybe I'll start making more often now that I feel a little inspired by it. It's always enjoyable to see where you take these projects. This is the fourth film, and you wouldn't know it. It seems like you've been making them a long, long time, which is really cool because we have this awesome creative partnership, Dauntless and Rise, and it makes me really excited for where you're headed, what you will produce in the future. You're a young guy. You have so much ahead of you, and you're only going to get better, right? And so I think people should be very excited, not only for this particular film, but future Rise collaborations, where this series is going, because I know that this isn't the last episode. And maybe now we could even mention what your next project will be for Dauntless. You want to mention that? Or should we keep that under wraps?
Which one are you talking about? Yeah, the
one I'm writing.
Not the one we're gonna. Okay, yeah. That's up to you, man.
I feel like just a little tease is fun. So this will be the first project where I will be writing it and Adrian will be creating it. And so he hasn't seen the script yet. So, he can't really elaborate on it too much, but I've asked him if he will edit the next episode for Order Out of Chaos, which is our 9/11 series. As our audience knows, longtime viewers know, we do an annual anniversary episode for the anniversary. And so, Adrian, I'm very excited to see what you bring to the table for that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, well, I'm excited to, dip my toes into it and see what we come up with. I hope I can do it justice. I'm sure it'll be a new angle that I can, put my style into it. And I love the way you write films, and I love all of the work that you do. So I have no doubt it's going to be awesome script, and I'm excited to dig into it, man.
Hell yeah, thank you. Well, go ahead, go off. Tell me all about the creation of this film. Tell me what it, give us all a peek behind the curtain into your creative process. I'm assuming it's all done right where you're sitting right now, right?
Yeah, totally. Yep, this is my it's my cockpit that I sit in when I steer the spaceship that runs into all these different things that I'm working on. But yeah, the process for Vibes 2 was a revealing process, like that I was sort of just along for the ride myself, just seeing where it's going as I'm writing it. I don't write the whole thing and then produce it. I'm writing as it's developing, and researching and I pretty much start editing as soon as I've got the first part done, and then once I'm done the first part, I'm already mapping out the rest of the film as I'm writing the first part, and compiling notes. And this time around, I actually used an app called Miro, which is like an infinite board. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, but it's one of these, like, it's just like it's an application where you can like just move all over the place. You could drop whatever you want, drop images, drop text documents. You can draw connections between things, and it's really useful for like organizing ideas and doing mind maps and stuff like that. So that's how I put all this together this time, and I found it to be really useful, especially when I have like multiple drafts of a section going, and I can like have the different drafts, and then I can see all the drafts that I wrote at once and pull from different parts and feed them into like where I'm compiling the final draft for that section. And I can, throw little sticky notes up that are like quotes that I found that in the research that I found to be inspiring, that I'll sometimes just put up on the screen because it's relevant, or at least like sets the table for where I'm about to go. And it's just a little like nugget of something to chew on. But usually one of the first things I'll do as I'm editing is I'll find the music. And most of the tracks you hear on Vibes, I produced. And not all of them were ready to be in a film. Like, a lot of them had a lot more going on that had to be stripped out for it to work as the backdrop for a narration. Like when I was making music, I was making music for like, big shows and festival kinds of scenes where there's like people dancing everywhere, and it's real bass heavy. You can't really speak over that. So there were a few tracks I had to strip down, but I actually like them even more in that form. When you start to strip the track down to its purest forms, you develop a new appreciation for it. And I have a pretty large body of music, so deciding on what to use is tricky sometimes, or it's like there's all kinds of different directions you could take it in. It's almost like I don't know, an abundance of options. And you just sometimes you got to just make the call, and you just go with what your instinct at the time is telling you to do, and just see where that leads you, and just be there to sort of make it happen as it's dictating to you what it needs and what should be there. And you just got to kind of use your imagination, and try not to like step on it too much or get in the way, or try to like struggle with things too hard so it becomes like almost like contrived. I found there's a fine line between like making something and something I don't know, like making something too much, like over producing something, and I want it to feel natural. I want it to feel like effortless almost. And I think I'm very happy with the end result of this film. I think especially with you mentioned all the B-roll and stuff. A lot of that B-roll comes from vintage footage that I've been collecting for years. randomly, you know, out of necessity. And a lot of times I was like just digging through archives and finding really cool visuals that I was using when I was like doing live visuals for like events and stuff. I was a VJ for a while, and I found vintage footage to be very unique in a way that not even AI can replicate properly, you know, and that's why I love it so much. And you know, all the artifacts that come with like an authentic piece of film, it lends to this style perfectly too, with the narration. It sounds vintage, and you know, creating that sort of aesthetic just works really well for these kinds of messages, I think, and these kinds of ideas, you know.
Yes, dude. And I'm just checking the total duration for Vibes so far is 1 hour and 7 minutes between both episodes. That's hella cool. That's a lot to binge on. And of course, you have 2 episodes for Darkness by Design, which is the fashion series. You're going to drop off for a second, but I'm just going to show the website. I'll bring you back. Don't you worry. Don't go anywhere. All right. So, oh, now I've got an echo. Hang on. Whoa. Check 1, 2. Okay. Can you hear me? I hope I didn't mute myself. I had a crazy echo there for a second. All right. So on the website, you have Vibes here, 2 episodes. You can click on series, scroll down a bit to Darkness by Design, and 2 episodes there, Balenciaga and the High Priest of Culture. That series is 59 minutes. So Adrian has 2 hours and 6 minutes total on the Dauntless platform. And, you know, it comes with a mean punch. It's really good stuff to share with your friends and family. The first episode of both series are available free of charge right now on Rumble. And you can share them using the link. We have a share feature on the player page on the website. So if you actually go to the video, you can share right from there to any social media platform, or you can find them on our Rumble channel. And we hope you'll, you know, share those out, but then direct people back to the website. And Adrian, you're doing awesome stuff. And actually, your wife, the Mrs. Rise Attire, is doing some pretty cool stuff too. And we are pleased to announce that we're going to be releasing the first ever Mrs. Rise Attire film here in the near future, in the coming weeks actually. And I've seen the first draft and it's pretty awesome. I'm so excited for where it's going. I don't know if she's there or if she wants to pop in or out. That's totally fine. If not, if she's not like decent, that's cool. But she's more than welcome to join.
Yeah, I can speak. I can speak for it.
Okay.
She's here in the chat. She's here in spirit. But yeah, I've been, you know, helping her put this together, and she's done a wonderful job on her own, you know. And I've been just sort of observing and giving my 2 cents as we always do with each other's work, you know, always bouncing ideas off each other. But she's been pursuing this passion project that was inspired by like 80s dark fantasy films like The Dark Crystal and even like Princess Bride, that sort of thing, but more fantasy, you know, and using AI to create authentic looking footage that almost looks like an 80s film, a big budget 80s film. And it just works perfectly with the story she's telling, which is, you know, very much a metaphor for the times, but also has a timelessness to it, you know. And I think what's really cool about the project is that it has the potential to be like a family film kind of series, you know, something that you could watch with your kids, that they can, you know, fall in love with the characters and, you know, want to emulate the hero and begin to kind of understand the world better through them, and get an idea of like the kinds of forces that we're up against without being overly traumatic or intimidating, and doing so in a way that's still really stylistic and cool, even if you don't have kids, or even if you do, if you're just watching yourself, you still appreciate it, and still like have a nostalgic factor to it as well. It's super exciting. And what's really cool about it is that it's got all kinds of amazing potential for like directions that we could take it in the future, which I won't say too much about, but we've already begun to kick around ideas of ways that we can expand on the concept, and take it into different directions that are also equally exciting and nostalgic.
Amen to all of that. And it's always cool to see what naturally comes out of people when you give them a blank slate, a blank canvas. And this is her, as we mentioned, her first film, but this is like straight from her soul. And I think it's really cool. It's unique. And we're going to play for you the teaser right now. And we'll see you guys on the other side. The Crystal Veil.
Enjoy.
Oh yeah. If that doesn't get you pumped, I don't know what will. And as you mentioned, it's like this really archetypal, sort of deep, metaphorical piece that, yeah, I think it's gonna hit home. And Adrian,
I'm gonna, man, it's so badass.
It's very, very badass, and I'm stoked for it to be an addition to our entire Dauntless ecosystem. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure everyone already knows because I say it all the time, but we do entertainment too, right? We're not just doing documentaries. We're trying to introduce some entertainment to just keep you occupied and inspire you and lean into this culture. And, there's like, you guys are doing the fashion side, and we need the entrepreneurs. Yeah, dude, we need the entrepreneurs who are going to step up and create the content and the merchandise that can help us have alternatives to the stuff that's out there that's degenerate or antithetical to our value systems. And I'm very excited to build out Dauntless, and we're just going to have the coolest stuff from all different genres.
Absolutely, man. And that's what I love about you, man. You've got a vision for what you want to do with this, and it's exactly aligned with what I'd be pushing for if I were you. Really taking this to the next level in terms of like how we compete in the culture war, because you can't just stop with just information-based content. Like if you want to defeat the cabal, you need to like meet them on the battlefield that they're fighting on, and they've been monopolizing for a long time. And it's got to start with people like us, because if not us, then who? I mean, obviously there's others doing it, but I'm just speaking like in general, like us collectively. Not us, then who?
Amen. Listen, I'm going to show the website, so you're going to drop off again because I thought I had everything totally prepared, but I guess I don't have one where we can both view a website here. But sit there for a sec. This is the Rise Attire website. Boom. Vibes 02. Thank you, Adrian, for that huge hero section. But guys, if you aren't aware, they just make the coolest streetwear, and it really taps into so many different. Oh, there's Vibes 01. It taps into so many different conspiracies, and by conspiracies, I just mean truths. I mean corruption. I mean exposing evildoers and shining a light on the stuff that we have more than enough evidence that we know it's happening. And you just look awesome in the process. You know, if you didn't, maybe like on the double take, you'll realize that this has some conspiratorial message behind it. But at first glance, you're just like, that looks dope. And there's just so much. And, you know, if you go to Signature Series, you're going to find all of the different content creators that they have collaborated with. So it's not just collabs with Dauntless. There's so many other content creators that you can support. That's actually how I came across Rise in the first place, was through David Whitehead's Cult of the Medics series, which we do have on Dauntless, by the way. And he has 10.
There's also a whole community under Rise INTL that's, you know, we offer manufacturing on demand services. That's free speech, and whoever wants to utilize it can. So we have, in addition to the Signature Series, which are like our official collaborations with certain content creators, that is like Rise branded. We also, you know, have stores within our store of different content creators who want to utilize our services, and that's the Rise INTL community. That's where you can find the Dauntless gear. That's where you could find like Badlands gear, all kinds of awesome stores there for content creators. Brad CGC, we did a whole series for his Codex 911 film, and you know, it's all evil free and censorship free. So if anyone out there is looking to make some merch for their business or their message, whatever it is, their show, whatever, hit us up. We're happy to work with you, and we're here to help.
No doubt, guys. And you got to get behind the businessmen in the industry, the people who are providing the value and putting in their sweat and tears into these brilliant creations. Adrian, I'm going to give you the last word, but I just want to also remind everyone, all of Adrian's socials are in the description. And once again, the website is Rise Attire USA. What do you hope viewers who check out Vibes 02 or the series as a whole, what do you want them to walk away from it with? Whether it's emotionally or intellectually, what do you want to leave them with?
I want to leave them feeling a little bit closer to God, and a little bit more connected to that first cause, and understanding their place in the universe and the power that they have inherent within them that isn't, doesn't come from this world. It comes from something much greater than it. And I want to give people something that they can revisit anytime they're feeling down, or if they're feeling like they need to pick me up. You know, they need something to remind them about certain things that the modern world is designed to lead us astray from, and to go somewhere that is cozy, that is, a place that allows them to sort of recenter themselves. And I think every watch is going to give you something new and that you didn't notice before, that you didn't fully maybe consider. And I would encourage everyone who's checking it out to give it like at least 2 watches, if not 4 or 5, but enjoy it and share it with other people. I don't think it crosses political lines. It's not a political movie. it's it's for everyone.
Yes, I like that you mentioned it's not a political movie, although there are much larger implications for the sort of geopolitical and the corrupt forces that are controlling humanity. The film in and of itself is not political, and so there are other connections you might draw in your mind to things that are happening in the world. But this is a break from the political, and this is a deep dive into the mystical, I would say.
Yeah, it's a white pill.
Yeah. Well, listen, Adrian, thank you so much for joining me, brother. And it's always good to have you here on the show. And we got to link up in person since we're neighbors and all. We got to make that happen soon. And just, keep doing the good work. Your future's looking very bright as far as filmmaking.
Thank you, sir. Well, I couldn't do it without you, man. And I really appreciate your support and believing in me. And I'm excited to be exploring this aspect of my creative side, and I'm glad that you provide me with the creative control and the artistic direction to do it the way I want to do it, and that means a lot to me. I've got a lot of respect for that, and a lot of appreciation for it. And right back at you, man. I think your future is just as bright, and I'm happy to be working side by side with you, man. You're a great guy.
Much love, dude. Appreciate you.
All right, buddy.
Peace,
and
Adrian.
shout out to my wife and all the awesome work she's doing.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, when you watch the film, let Adrian know what you think. It's always good to get feedback as a filmmaker, especially one who cultivates something over many months. You go into the cave and you emerge with this beautiful work of art that you've toiled over for so long. It's nice to get feedback on that. And so give Adrian a follow on all of his socials and drop him a line after you watch it and pat him on the back, and support Rise Attire because they're doing incredible things. And we're looking forward to the Crystal Veil coming up in the upcoming weeks. And also Jason Bermas's The Epstein Files, episode 1. I have seen the work on it as of just the other day, and it's looking good. We're aiming for 1 month from now to drop that, so stay tuned. And I just want to provide you guys with a little bit additional resources here. So if you go to the website, you click on series, and of course you've got, as we mentioned, Darkness by Design and Vibes. Those are Adrian's series. We also have Thrive, and this is the other one that we mentioned earlier. There are only 2 films in this, and they've discontinued it, but they've covered a lot of ground in just 2 films. In fact, it is 4 hours and 44 minutes just between 2 films. And this goes into, the episode 1 covers sort of a bird's eye view of the capture of humanity by unseen forces, but it also kind of goes back through thousands of years and looks at the vector equilibrium, which is captured in the Flower of Life mandala, and how that is found in megalithic stone structures throughout the world, and what they believe the implications of that are, and its connections to 0-point energy. And then volume 2 goes even deeper down that particular line of thought and goes into a real world example of a 0-point energy or over unity device, if you will. And that's really cool. But they touch on the banking sector. They touch on, fake climate change and all the rest of it. It's a great series, and I would encourage you, if you haven't seen it, definitely check that one out. You can stream all of our stuff, whether it's the Dauntless Originals or the curated content, everything, premium, free, or all of the above on our Roku channel, so you can watch from the comfort of your couch. I think that's all I've got to say for today. And I'm pretty hungry. And so I'm going to dip out, guys. It's been real. I love you all. Consider becoming a subscriber of Dauntless if you aren't already. And if you are, much love to you. You guys are incredible and you pay our bills. And so we are forever indebted to you for allowing us to build this incredible company and work our dream jobs. And so much love to everybody who's a subscriber. Remember, tune in same time, same place next week, where we'll be going deep down another rabbit hole. I'll see you guys then. Love you all.